Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Adrienne Cochrane, and I'm coming to you live from our new podcast studio at 135 Broad Street, called appropriately Studio 135. And today I am excited. Guess who's in the house? The original Renaissance man,
Oh,
June Archer. Thank you so much for making that trip from the Big Apple to join us live in studio
I'm
today.
I'm excited to be here. This was good. The day started out like how you wake up and you're like, this is gonna be a great day. So I had a board meeting and then I had an interview in the Bronx at one of the colleges out there, and then I was like, it's time to go home, and I'm looking forward to it. Like this is all we never get the opportunity to sit down and
That's right.
have this time to just really talk. So this is gonna be exciting. I'm excited.
I am excited too. And I have to tell you, June, I've been here about 14 years now, and you're one of the first people that I met.
Re-
And we'll talk about later how we actually
Wow.
met. I'm wearing my bracelet. I'll just give
Yes.
that as a hint. But when Yvonne, talks to me about, hey, you're a guest, because what we do is mostly we're talking to women and we're talking to girls that are making impact in the state.
Right.
Once a year, one of our shows is we've got to bring a man in that's making impact not only locally but nationally. And look at you, what better person
I
this year
appreciate I
than to
appreciate
invite to our show? So I want to make sure I get this all straight. I'm going back to my notes now, but as I
Okay.
said, you are the original Renaissance man. My goodness, you have a podcast. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
You are a singer. I'm just hearing you. Maybe you'll hit a few notes in a couple of minutes
Me,
for
me, me,
us.
me, me.
President and CEO of 1128 Entertainment. I'm sure
Yes.
there's some
Yes,
significance
there is.
to that, and you'll tell us about it for over 2 decades.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's just so much more about you. And so rather than me reading notes and talking about it, I really want to start this off by saying, I'd like to know, what have you really been doing for the last 2 decades? Not
Wow.
much, I can tell, but
Yeah, I've been trying to find my way and purpose, to be honest with you. And I want to say thank you so much for having me. I think it's important to have a balance of perspective anyway. So even if it's one time out of the year, I think we can all learn from a different perspective. So I
absolutely.
appreciate the platform. And as I mentioned backstage, this facility is amazing. This podcast studio is amazing.
Thank you.
My journey started out, you mentioned 2 decades. And I talk to young people about Malcolm Gladwell's theory of 10,000 hours.
Okay.
And I didn't know about Malcolm Gladwell over 20 something years ago.
Mhm.
But I'm now approaching on 3 decades
3 decades. Wow.
of pursuing a dream that my parents didn't have because they're immigrants from Jamaica. They had a different perspective when they came here.
Hmm.
And no disrespect to them, they came here for the reasons that they were supposed to, and they accomplished
That's right.
what they wanted to accomplish. But I was that kid who I was very talented as an athlete, gifted athlete. Played 4 sports in high school growing
Wow.
up,
Nice.
but music just kept calling me. And then when I got to middle school, I fell in love with Michael Jackson, as everyone did in that
Yeah.
time period, and especially young men who love to sing and dance.
Hmm.
And one of my good friends to this date, I met in middle school, and we battled doing Michael Jackson. It was then that people were like, "We didn't know that you could dance," and I was like, "I didn't know I could dance either." Like it just out of nowhere,
Wow.
and fell in love with Michael Jackson. Fell in love with New Edition, and we formed a group called Junior Edition so we could
Oh,
do everything that New Edition was doing at the time.
nice.
And Miss Adrienne, like that dream kept bugging me. And, I was a year behind, the guys who I was dancing with.
Hmm.
And when they got to high school, they came back, and our high school, middle school across the street from each other. And they said, when you come to the high school next year, make sure you audition for jazz show choir. And I'm like, what's jazz
What
show
is
choir?
that? Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
people call it Glee Club, but we
Okay.
literally
Okay.
had the opportunity to sing and dance the first period, the first class of the day.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when I got the chance to audition, I made it, and we had the group there, and we just got to hone our skills as performers, singers. And By the time I graduated in 1989, there was a competition, the first place competition.
Wow.
First place award was you get the opportunity to perform at the world famous Apollo Theater. Second place was $500.
Oh my.
We won first place, but I always love sharing this story. The second place winner was my childhood friend Anika Noni Rose,
Oh my goodness.
who is the first
Look at
African
that.
American Disney princess,
Yeah, look at
performed
that.
in Dreamgirls with Beyonce and
Yeah.
Jennifer Hudson. And I love sharing that with young people to let them know it doesn't matter if you come in first or last, but
That's right.
how do you finish your race?
That's right.
Right? It's
That's right.
important.
That's
'Cause
right.
sometimes first isn't what it's cracked up to be.
That's right.
It
You're
means you have to
absolutely
work
right.
harder to stay there,
Yeah.
right? And we go to the world famous Apollo Theater. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Like we get there, and there were, I think, two or three buses that came from Hartford to support us. And that's when I realized community is a really big thing. And this is
That's right.
1989. And we get on stage, and I remember being backstage. Ed Lover was there, Martin Lawrence was there. We saw
Oh
Keith
my.
Sweat, like people that you just wow, like we hear their records, we see them on television, we're watching them, box,
Hmm.
but to
Hmm.
be in the same room with them, this is
Amazing.
magic.
Amazing. Yeah.
Kids coming from Hartford because you
Yeah.
you don't ever think because we didn't see those examples.
Hmm. Hmm.
As soon as they introduced us, ladies and gentlemen from Hartford, Connecticut, all I heard was boo. Who are these guys?
Oh,
Boo. And we're
oh
like,
yeah, the Apollo,
it's
famous.
the Apollo. That's what they're
Yeah.
known for.
Uh-huh.
And then our lead singer hit a high note, and that was it. We had him in the palm
More
of our
booze.
hands.
More booze.
No more booze.
That's
And
wonderful.
it took us 20 times to keep going back and forth to the Apollo Theater.
20 times.
20 times over a span of a couple of years
Oh,
until that 21st time in 1995 we got our record deal.
wow.
And I'm leaving stuff out because there's a lot
Sure.
that goes on going back
Yeah.
and forth to New York,
Yeah.
being disappointed, not getting the phone calls, a lot of hurry up and wait. But on that 21st time, our song was on the radio
Oh,
nationally. Our
wow.
video was on BT, VH1,
Wow.
MTV, The Box. We were in magazines and
That's
became
amazing.
hometown heroes.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I saw that and I saw my peers in music accomplishing the same thing, I realized that you can be someone with dreams from a small town that
That's
could
right.
think big
That's right.
and inspire other people, inspire your community.
That's right.
And with that, in 1995, I created the June Archer Celebration of Life, where I raised money for AIDS and breast cancer. And I wanted to do something with that celebrity,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
People's eyes were on us.
So, June, before we go further down that road, let's go back just a little bit
Okay.
down memory lane. So, you talked about your parents coming from Jamaica.
Yes.
You talked about your amazing opportunity at the Apollo. And there's a message in that. Don't give up, don't quit,
Yes.
that perseverance. So, kudos to you for that.
I appreciate that.
Tell me what it was like growing up in your
Oh, my household it was fun. It was fun. It was My parents were a part of the Sportsman Athletic Club. They're very big in the West Indian community. My father played cricket, and my mother was very involved in the club. A lot of the women there would cook. They would
Wow.
do all these events,
Yeah.
for the men.
Hmm.
And I would see my dad on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays at Keeney Park playing cricket and hosting other people from different parts of the New York, Connecticut, Montreal, Toronto. Once again, a sense of community,
Yes,
sense
absolutely.
of giving, a sense of
Absolutely.
camaraderie. Competition was in there because they would compete playing cricket. They would compete bowling. They would compete playing dominoes. But I also had the opportunity to meet different kids from different places and kind of see what they were doing in their, we're in silos, but what are you
Yes.
what are you doing in Montreal that's really amazing? What are you
Hmm.
doing in Toronto? What are you
Hmm.
doing in New York or New Jersey? And you come to find out that wow, we're similar and different in so many ways that are so beautiful.
Yeah.
And once again, that allowed me to have the wherewithal to know how to network and kind of adopt soft skills.
Sure.
Introduce yourself, making a new friend, team building, playing sports together, right? And just having a camaraderie with people that you've met for the first time and building relationships.
That's wonderful.
In that household, that's what I learned. My parents were always giving. They were always sending barrels back to Jamaica with things for people who, not that they were less fortunate, they just didn't have access to the
That's
things
right.
that we had here.
And you know what? You make an important point because we assume sometimes, oh, they just can't get, you don't have access. So I'm
Right.
so happy that you said that.
Right. There's a
It
difference.
is, there is absolutely a
And
difference.
in this country,
Absolutely a difference.
we look at things in a perspective where we believe we have everything and we believe we are sharing everything, but it's not necessarily the case. But
That's right.
in that household, I learned all of that. I learned about family. I learned about hard work. You know, getting my worker permit at 14 and
Mm.
working in the tobacco industry and picking tobacco and realizing that my grandfather picked tobacco and it was a
Yeah.
rite of passage.
Yeah.
But it was also work ethic,
Yeah.
getting up, responsibility, understanding the value of money. Those are the lessons. Those are the things that I learned in that household.
And that's so important. And that's something even today, if we say to our young people, we say to our parents, those are the first teachers. People think, oh,
Absolutely.
my child, went to school or preschool or Montessori or
No,
whatever. The
no.
first teachers are what you have in your home. So
That
that's
environment is
great.
important.
It is. It's very important. So you mentioned tobacco, and you've got this little documentary, don't you?
Yeah.
That's kind of making its way around. So
Yeah.
can you talk to us a little
Yeah.
bit?
There's a
And
buzz.
yeah, and tell me, you talked about working in tobacco fields. What was that experience, like, and how does that sort of all play into this documentary?
It working on the tobacco field, it was, as I mentioned, a rite of passage.
Mm-hmm.
So that summer, like you get your working papers, they come around and hey, who's interested in working tobacco? And I have friends that were like, their brothers or sisters worked on a tobacco farm and they talked
Mm-hmm.
about it was hard work, it was dirty work, but at the end of
Yeah.
the summer, you have a couple $100 at the end of
Yeah.
the summer.
Yeah.
I jumped into it. I didn't have anything going on except for a paper route. I'm like, I want to make some more money. Fast forward, I am doing an artist in residence at UConn and at Eastern
Yeah.
and lecturing there and talking about music and entertainment and careers in the music and entertainment. And two professors approached me about a documentary that they're working on. And I said, oh, I would love to hear more about it. And like, we love how you speak. You're a great orator. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we would love to see if you'd be interested in moderating it. I'm like, I never moderated a documentary like that before.
Sure.
I had one in music that I did. Yeah, I'm interested. Send me what you're thinking about. Long story short, they sent it to me, and I asked them, "Hey, when you sent me this book, the people in this book, you need to reach out to these people." They're like, "Yeah." I know all of these
Oh my
people
goodness.
in this book. Like, my parents are Jamaican. I'm trying to
Yeah.
explain to them,
Yeah.
like this. Oh, I would, but if you want me to be a part of this, I want to be executive producer.
Sure.
They're like,
Good for
well,
you.
exactly right, because you see,
Yeah.
you want equity in things, and when you add
Absolutely.
value
Yes.
and you know your value, two
Yes.
different things.
Another important point. We don't want
Absolutely,
equality, we want equity. That's
equity
something
is
different, and
is
know your
big.
value. Absolutely.
They called me back. I kept my stand and like, all right, we thought about it. If
That's
you say
great.
that you could do what you say you could do, yeah, we would like to have you as an executive producer. And
Wonderful.
that entailed reaching out to these people in the West Indian community, asking them about their stories of making that immigration step to the United States,
Yeah.
working on the tobacco farms,
Mhm.
learn that my grandfather worked on these farms, learn about all the history and how Jamaicans got to this country and what they had to go through. So in this documentary, it's a called it a love story because there's some good, there's some bad, there's some ugly,
Sure. Sure.
but it's what makes up our community of not only Jamaicans but migrants that come from Puerto Rico, those who came from Poland, those who made the Great Migration from the South,
Mm-hmm.
and how MLK makes his way up here. And I get to read some of the letters that he wrote to his mom and calling the North God's country and spending time here in Hartford. And I just continue to just find out things, Miss Adrienne. I was like, man, we're not talking about these things.
Yeah.
Edna Negron on Park Street, and what she did, Maria Sanchez, people
History.
that we're proud of, but we don't understand how they got here to
That's
begin with
right. That's right.
or how they got stuck here. And so this documentary, uh, we did a screening in Westport, and we're getting ready to do one in Hartford.
Oh,
But this is
exciting.
a
Exciting.
Connecticut story
Yeah.
about this tobacco leaf that can only be grown the way it's grown because of the volcanic sand here in the Connecticut River
Ah,
Valley. So the story starts out with that, but it encompasses it's a world global story because it's a $1 billion industry, this tobacco, but you don't realize it it touches almost 100 hands before it's smoked.
100 hands. Boy, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
look at so there was the information that you already knew, whether it was anecdotally or
Right.
somebody else was telling you the story, what you lived and experienced, but you probably did a lot of further research too to
Yeah.
sort of augment what you already knew. And now you have this impressive story. Let me share this with you. My dad, who's from the Jim Crow South, Alabama,
Wow.
told me and that's after I was in Connecticut. I'd probably been here a couple of years. And he said, well, you may not know this, but he actually came one summer. He was in vet school at Tuskegee University, then Tuskegee Institute.
Right.
Said he actually came to Connecticut one summer and worked. And that's how he said, you don't know some of the people that would be considered famous folks that actually did work those tobacco fields. So
Absolutely.
he had a whole
Wow.
story. So look at this.
Wow.
Look at
But we
this.
don't share those
We
stories.
don't. We
But
don't.
they were in this story, in this documentary. We talk about the HBCUs.
Hmm.
Morehouse is the more prominent one,
Yeah,
because they are the ones that kind of pioneered it.
that's
But
right.
Arthur Ashe
Hmm.
was here working. Mahalia
Isn't that
Jackson
something?
was here working. So it's weaving those people into the stories that Connecticut, we have a rich history.
Yes,
Yeah, it's a charter oak state, and we talk about all these things.
sure.
But there's a rich history of people of color that we do not celebrate. And I'm proud to be able to celebrate it in this documentary. I can't wait for people to see it.
Well, bless you for bringing
Yes.
this to life and for sticking to your guns and saying, nope, I want to executive produce this. Make sure we get this thing right. I
Absolutely.
can't wait to see it.
Absolutely. I can't wait for you to see it because
That's a real strong hint there.
we're gonna
Hint,
talk
hint.
about it. And I hope that your dad would be proud to know that we did highlight the historically black colleges and universities
I am
in
sure
this
he would
piece.
be.
So
I'm sure he passed in 2018, unfortunately, but I will tell you, I'm sure. I still believe, yep, he knows what's going on.
yeah, he
Still
does.
watching over. But thank you so much for that. So we transition a little bit.
Yes.
Now, I heard from Yvonne Renee Davis that you can sing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Once upon a time with a with a group of guys by the name of Room Service. We yeah. That
how'd you know you had that talent? How'd that come about?
Well, my grandmother sang
Okay.
growing up. She would sing in the house.
Okay.
My father had a voice I knew of, and my parents, they were always dancing. On the weekends, they would be dancing. So I knew that I had a little bit of
Got
both.
that rhythm and that, yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
they are social people. So it was nothing for me to get in front of an audience and talk or sing. And
Uh,
just something that's so electric about it
yeah.
that, it was mesmerizing. And just if you think about Michael Jackson and everything else, it's a beautiful thing.
I wish we were set up in this studio. We're going to have to work on that. I have to
Absolutely.
tell my engineer,
Absolutely.
Calvin Weir, we got to work on it.
Calvin's gonna
So
make that
you could
happen for us.
actually get in here and sort of let me date myself, bust a move, right?
Abs-
I love it. So, um, again, so you're the Renaissance man and sort of a not that you were ever leaving anything behind, you were just continuing to evolve and grow. So what came next? I'm looking for that bridge between you now. You're Mr. Hollywood for
mm,
Mr. Hartford Hollywood,
yeah,
that
the
all of
bridge.
these different stars and folks that I don't think I can look in any sort of social medium and not see June Archer standing next to Fitty,
Somebody.
standing
Yeah.
on the Power. But I got to tell you, my love for Power, people won't believe it.
Oh,
My love for
so we got to talk.
Tommy.
Oh,
I love
oh,
Tommy.
Tommy's.
So,
He is.
how did all of this just give us that bridge for how you put
Yeah,
all of these pieces together and have just again, I've watched you over the 14 years I've been around and just
I
continue to
appreciate that.
evolve.
Let me see. I call it reinventing yourself.
Yeah.
It is a bridge.
Hmm.
It is a bridge. And in 1999, for us as a group, the music literally and figuratively stopped.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
had to figure out, what's next. And I was still young. I was mid 20s trying to figure it out.
Hmm.
And I remember going over and doing a pilgrimage in Jamaica and going back to, where my parents grew up and the streets that they walked. And I came back to the States and I'm like, I still love this thing called music.
Yeah.
It's still in
This
me.
is
Like
something that's in your
it's
DNA.
it's in my DNA.
Yeah.
And I ended up going back to Cigna because I was working at Cigna from when I graduated in '89. The member of my group, his mom said to me, I don't know what your boy's going to be doing, but you're going to be starting work September when you start school. I know you guys think about this music thing, but you need to have this piece.
Sure.
And
Sure.
she got me a job at Cigna.
Oh.
And the record deal came.
Hmm.
I took that opportunity to have a break between Cigna and going to Central Connecticut State
Okay.
University.
Okay.
And when I got back to Cigna, Um, God bless Miss Nadine Green. She was my manager. And she says to me one day, I want to talk to you. You're doing everything you're supposed to be doing. We enjoy you here. Kind of like that that script that you hear in a movie right before someone's gonna get fired,
Oh,
right? And I'm like,
you hear the butt
yeah,
coming.
yeah. And I'm like, if I did something wrong, just let me know. I can
Yeah.
fix it. And the next piece changed my life.
Okay.
And I had the opportunity recently to thank her. So I talk about her when I lecture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I talk about her in the sense of being able to pay attention to the road signs. And when we pay attention to road signs,
Yeah,
we can move on to the next thing. We won't block our
that's right.
blessings.
That's right. I like that. I like that analogy.
And she says to me, you don't belong here. I want you to put in your 2 weeks notice. And when you come back, I want you to figure out what that is, but it's not here.
Wow.
It's not here. And I went to a music seminar and came back and got a job as a president of the label that I was on
Wow.
as a recording artist. And at that point, I was able to work with Jay-Z, Beyonce, Chris Brown, 50 Cent, Mario,
What was
Omarion.
all that like?
It was amazing because you're working with, at that point, they are my peers. There are people who
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yo, like this is Jay-Z. Like I'm in the studio
I
with
know that is just
Jay-Z,
is he
right?
as brilliant as
Oh,
everybody says he is?
he and 50 Cent are brilliant. Beyonce, brilliant. But you don't get to realize that until you are in a room with them or behind the scenes and really get to see exactly what makes them tick. Why do they think the way they
They
think
think,
from a creative
yeah,
perspective?
wow,
And it was a blessing. And that's when I knew I wanted young people to see that side of the business. I was in front of the camera, in front of the
hmm
mic, but when I got behind it, there's so many careers, and our young people don't understand. Beyonce cannot do the On the Run tour by herself.
that's right,
She's not creating the outfits.
that's right,
She's not putting outfits together. She's
that's right.
not putting the stage together, the
Hmm.
lights, the
Hmm.
videos. She's not driving the trucks with the stage to the next location.
That's
So
a
there are
true village.
careers,
Yeah,
right, that I
yeah.
want young people to say, I love music. I
Hmm.
love technology. How do I put those two together? I love music. I love industry or manufacturing. How do I put that together?
Hmm.
And if you have a passport and you love to travel,
That's right.
you can make six figures, travel the world, put
That's right.
stamps in your passport,
Yeah,
and not
yeah.
have to sing one lick. You don't have to play one instrument.
It's amazing. That is amazing.
And that was the bridge. That was the how do I reinvent myself? And then in 2010, I found myself at a crossroad again
Hmm.
and found another road sign of someone saying to me, hey, you keep saying these inspirational things. You should write a book. And I'm like, I'm not an author. I'm not an
Have
author.
you been reading my notes?
No.
Because that's the transition to
It's another bridge.
another bridge.
It's
Let me
another
ask you
bridge.
one last question. So, at the time you were being told by this wonderful woman that you don't belong here,
Yeah.
did you hear it, or could you hear the true message at that time, or is it something you had to sit with, and then things just
Mm.
sort of fell into place? Like, what was that experience?
I had to sit with it. I had to let
Yeah,
it marinate,
yeah,
but not realizing I was walking in my purpose and not
yeah,
realizing it.
yeah,
Those who know me that were working there or were around then
yeah.
in that era, like I was making mixtapes.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go to like on my lunch break or during my 15-minute break in the morning or the afternoon. I'm like going by everybody's desk. I'm dropping off a mixtape, selling the mixtape, giving them a flyer for events that I'm doing. Right? I'm handing out
It's your
hot
hustle.
chocolate soul
Yeah.
flyers, not realizing like that was my 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 way to get into entrepreneurship and promoting my events and building my audience. So when people see it 30 years later, like, oh, you have great events and everybody
Yeah,
comes. I've been building this
that's right.
since
That's
1995.
right.
So it didn't. It's not happenstance.
Yeah,
And you still have to work at it.
yeah.
I've been blessed that people 30 years now have they still come to my birthday celebration. They still come to Hot Chocolate Soul. But you still have to
This is
put the
great.
work in as an entrepreneur.
No, you're right. You're right.
So I had to walk in that purpose and didn't really understand it. But sometimes see people see greatness in you when you don't see it in yourself.
That's true. I just wondered about that experience because we've all had it at some point in a career where something we thought I certainly have experienced it. Unfortunately, it was early in my career. And what you hear at that time is like, oh, goodness, this is rejection. It's just setting you up for what you're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely.
So that's great.
You know, I
That's
want to
great.
add this too, Miss Adrian. You know what I think is pretty interesting is imposter syndrome, right?
Yes.
I
Yes.
I I don't believe in that
Mhm.
for
Okay.
a
Tell me.
number of reasons. If you've put in the work, and I talk to my students, I talk to especially women of color.
Mm-hmm.
If y'all are twice educated
Mm-hmm.
than a lot of folks,
Mm-hmm.
three times educated
Mm-hmm.
as those who don't look like us.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
disrespect to them,
Right.
but when you do get that opportunity, why do you think it's imposter syndrome if you put the work in?
Yeah.
If you put the work in, if you put in that 10,000 hours that Malcolm Gladwell talks about, there's no reason why you should question why you're here. I don't question why I'm here
Sure.
anymore. But I think culturally, we've done ourselves a disservice, or the people that come before us,
Yeah.
they wanted us to be humble, but they didn't teach us to walk unapologetically
Right.
in our dopeness, right?
I
It's
agree.
Adrian,
I
no, no,
love it.
don't
Unapologetically
in,
in your dopeness. Love
absolutely.
it.
But what we learn is, Adrian, don't talk about that you got a big job. Don't talk about that you bought a new
You're
house
right.
or you bought a new car. People gonna think that you're
Mm-hmm.
pompous or
Yeah.
you think you're better than them.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
but
You're right.
if you look at it from the other end of the scope,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not doing well, how do you inspire everybody else?
Good point.
Because they would say, "Oh, well,
Very good point.
why would I do that work?" And Adrian, she ain't doing nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at what she driving around, and look what she. So you're not inspiring anybody.
You're right.
But if you are able to, and if everybody who knows you, they know that you're humble. No one, because people gonna think about whatever they're gonna think about anyway.
Exactly right.
But you should walk in that your purpose of, man, like I've accomplished. I've started a business.
Yes.
I've written a book.
Yes.
I'm the president and CEO.
Yes. Yes.
Why do you dumb that down
You're
and
right.
say, "Oh no, it's just a little job, it's just a little car, it's just a little house"? No, it's a big thing. It
This
should
is a
be
big
looked
deal.
at that.
Be who you be, right?
Be who you be,
Yeah.
and just watch who you inspire
That's right.
by being that person.
But this is great. If you don't know, I'm having a wonderful conversation with the multi hyphenate June Archer.
This is
A
fun.
couple of seconds ago, you talked about so you write a book. So this isn't just decoration on this table.
No.
Talk to us about this.
Well, this was that transition I was talking about,
Yeah.
right? That other bridge of reinvention of, 2010, the music started to sound a little different. And I wanted to step back a little bit. And during that time, I felt like people were so negative. Like social media was ramping up at the time. We were getting out of the MySpace phase, for those who remember
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
MySpace.
I sure
And
do.
and you get into this Facebook space, I'm watching people complain the first thing in the morning. They're complaining about their job, they're
Yeah.
complaining about their spouse,
Yeah.
complaining about their children, just complaining about life.
Mhm.
So I said, I'm gonna, for 365 days, I'm gonna write a positive quote. I'm gonna write an affirmation. I'm just say something positive, uplifting for 365 days, just to see if I could change the perspective of those
This is great.
5,000 friends that I
Yeah.
have on Facebook. And people will
Yeah,
watch it.
that's no small feat.
No, it's not, because you have to be dedicated to it. You have to be
You
disciplined
do.
to really look at the glass half full instead of half empty. And it was a challenge to myself. And during that time, I was going to couples therapy with my wife.
Mhm.
We were 5 years in,
Mhm.
and someone said something that was pretty amazing. You should get a tune-up,
Nothing wrong
right?
with
All right, I didn't want to be that guy. I was like, I don't need that. I'm a dude. I don't need. And we went, and it was interesting because the therapist was like, "What's really going on? Like, you guys are sitting next to each other. You're holding hands. We come here, like,
Yeah, why are
like
you
we just really
here?
wanted a tune-up, and we were learning things about ourselves and
Sure.
family things that you that are passed on that you don't even realize that.
Mhm.
Oh, I get that from my mom, or I get that from my dad, and you bring that into a relationship and situation, and you don't realize like how that affects a relationship.
That's right.
So we're learning all these things, and I'm
That's
I'm I'm
amazing.
writing this, and in the when you go to therapy, they always ask you like, so how's it going? Like, how's your week? I'm like, oh man, like, had a great week. It's all good. And I woke up this morning was my famous line, and this got to a point where one day it just kind of bubbled over, and the therapist asked my wife, like, is he always like this? Has he always been like this? Like, is
Yeah.
he always so positive? She's like, yeah, no.
Not
Even my
bad.
family thinks it's crazy. I don't know if one day it's not going to be all right. And she looks at me and she's like, "Is every day a good day to you?" And Miss Adrian, and right there, I said, "Oh, I know we're not supposed to use anything, a device." I was like, I had to text myself. And I said, "That's gonna be the title of my book." She was like, "What?" I said, "Yes, every day can be a good day."
And look at that.
And that became the title of the book.
That's
Because it can
wonderful.
be. It can
That's
be.
wonderful. Why do people think there's something wrong with someone who has such a positive outlook all
Because people always have something to complain
the
about.
time?
It's life is not worth living if people don't have anything to complain about.
It depends on how you want to direct your energy, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I don't have time for complaints. I rather the solutions. Will bad things
Because it's
happen to good
amazing.
people? All the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Will you have a flat tire where it's inconvenient?
Will the tire blow off your altogether? Will the wheel blow off your car? But that's a
Absolutely.
different conversation,
Absolutely,
Jim.
it will. Absolutely. Will you get a ticket for driving fast? Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Will you be late for work or late for
that's right.
church? Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
But it doesn't define your day. It's
that's right.
just a moment.
That's right.
It's just a moment. If we look at it like that, I feel like we could be much further along because we're only here but a short period of
That's
time.
right.
If COVID hasn't taught us that,
Oh my goodness.
as you get older, if
Oh
that
my
doesn't
goodness.
teach
That's
you,
right. That's right.
if
No,
you
you're
if
right.
you look at if you look in your phone now, and I challenge people who are watching and listening, just go into your Facebook
Yeah.
under friends, or go into your cell phone and go
Hmm.
into your contacts.
Hmm.
I guarantee you 10% of the people that were in there
Yeah.
a year ago, 5 years
Yeah.
ago,
Yeah.
you can't call them.
Yeah.
Not because they don't have the phone, not because
Oh,
they
I
won't pick up,
understand.
because they are no longer
They
here.
are no longer here. You know,
You
you're
can't
right.
message them on Facebook.
You're right.
They're not here.
You're
So
right.
it's short. We got more years behind us than we got ahead of us
Yes, we
for
do.
some of us.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do at that time? You gonna complain? I don't have time to complain. I'm trying to inspire a nation of young people and old people to just live their best lives. And
Live your best life.
that's
That's
it.
no, that's amazing. And that's an amazing truth. And I love the way you're sharing it because it's so important. This is a great conversation, Jim. We're gonna have to have you come back.
No,
I'm gonna tell Yvonne Renee Davis we're gonna do
I'm
repeat.
excited to come back. I don't get to have these conversations. I just put my head down and do the work. And when you do that, that whole positive aspect for me
Yeah.
was 100 Men of Color.
Well, there we go. And I want to tell you that just in honor of that, I am wearing my bracelet,
Wow,
class of 2018.
that's
Now, I really want you to talk about that because you just said you want to inspire young people, old people, everybody. You want to be inspirational. You want people to have a positive outlook. Know that things are possible. Don't give up. That's the story of your life to this point
yeah,
and continuing to evolve. Continue. I can sing. I can dance. I still want to see those
yeah,
things.
yeah.
I can write a book. I can produce a movie. I can have a successful family life. I can do all of these things. And then you said, you know what? I want to shine a light on other people. I want to
Yeah.
make it not just about what I'm, and I agree with you. You ought to always be able to be proud of and allow your light to shine. And I certainly identify with something you said a little earlier because my parents were that way. They're
Mm,
like, you don't have to, if your light shines brightly enough, that was my mother. Your light shines brightly enough, people will see it. You don't have to say, look at my light. But what's really wrong with saying, look at my light or being proud of light? That's what I heard you say
nothing.
a couple of minutes ago.
Nothing. I understand why they said it,
We do
but we have to
understand
change
why
that
they said it.
perspective.
We absolutely do understand why they
Yeah.
said it, especially with the dad that came out of the Jim Crow South in the
Yeah.
time that he did.
Yeah.
But you have done no better shining a light on literally by the hundreds, literally 100 Black men of color, 100 Black women of color. Please talk about how that all came to
Yeah.
be, and it continues. I saw on LinkedIn just a couple of days ago people that I know, and now, I mean, it's a thing. I
Yeah,
am so excited to
I didn't know it was
announce
a thing.
it is a thing.
I didn't
It is a thing.
only this year did
It's
I
really
come to
real.
realize,
Yeah.
because that wasn't the perspective.
Yeah.
It started with, unfortunately, Trayvon Martin
Yeah.
and Mike Brown.
Mhm.
And in 2013, I wanted to change the perspective of young men. I wanted to give them a different dream,
Yeah.
right? I wanted them to see the Jay-Z's
Mhm.
in their own community. They didn't have to watch it on television.
Mhm.
And those Jay-Z's for me were Jerry Long,
Mhm.
um, Tom Smith, Dennis Mink, Um, so many of them in our communities. Dr.
Yeah.
Steve Perry,
Mhm.
Sandy Cloud,
Mhm.
Doc Hurley.
Mhm.
And that first year, we honored 100 men of color. And I'll tell you this: no one knows this. That first
I
class,
won't tell anybody.
yeah, the cat's out the bag. That first class was a class that I curated myself, and it was a way for me to honor those who shoulders I stand on
Mhm.
and
That's wonderful.
footsteps that I walk behind. Since then, it has been about the community making nominations, but that
Mhm.
first class was to say thank you and to
That's right.
inspire to share what these men have meant to our communities from a statewide perspective. But I shouldn't even say statewide, literally from Stanford to Springfield,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because when you talk
Yeah.
about Western Mass,
Mhm.
we're a family. Like
Mhm.
that Western Mass area, all the way up to Stanford, like we are one. But
Mhm.
never in the history of what we've been doing has a state come together for 2 nights now, right? You
Yeah.
talk about 100 men, 100 women of color.
100 women. Yeah.
That we do it in silos respectively. NAACP would do something here in
Yes.
Waterbury
Yes.
or Groton or Hartford.
Yeah.
YWCA would do something here.
Mhm.
Urban League would do something.
Mhm.
We're doing it in silos, but
Mhm. Mhm.
for these
Mhm.
2 nights, the
We're all
whole state is
together.
together.
Absolutely.
And I wanted our young men to see men dressed up in tuxedos,
Yeah.
suits, with a tie or bow tie with a belt around their waist,
Mhm.
with their pants hanging
Yes.
around their
Yes.
waist and not off
Yes.
of their,
Yes.
and what it looks like with shoes instead of Jordans.
That's right.
And in 2015, I had the opportunity to honor, well, say 2014, I honored my mentor, Michael Bivens
Uh-huh.
from New Edition.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Um, and that was amazing because he had mentored me ever since I had the dream, and we were emulating everything that he and New Edition were doing. And as we're on the stage at the Bushnell Theater, Michael comes on stage as he's known for, and he says, "Hold on, wait a second. Like y'all gotta give it up for June. Like this is amazing. Like look how beautiful everybody is." He said, "Next year he's gonna celebrate 100 women of color." I was like,
Oh, and,
"Hold on, wait a second. I didn't.
and
That's
that's
not
how
what."
that came to be.
And
Wow.
that's how that
Wow.
came to be,
Wow. Wow.
so that you know men and women could see themselves. And I didn't do it
This is wonderful.
right away. I didn't do it in 2014,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's another story for another time. But I
Okay.
waited
That's our part two.
a year and did it, and it
Nice.
was a blessing, and it's been a blessing ever since.
You might not have known it was a thing, but I can tell you
I didn't
that
know.
even when I was notified that I was like, wow, everybody said, did you get it? Did you get it this year? And I used to say, June's going to run out of people. He's doing it literally by the hundreds, but you
Wow.
never do. You never do.
So I thought about that. I remember the first year I did it. I won't call any names,
Yeah.
but there's some government officials. There was like this. This is why 100. Why 100? Like it's
Yeah.
a lot of people. Like you're gonna run out of people.
Yeah.
I said, there's no way that we run out of people if
Mhm.
we continue to inspire everyone.
You're right.
Last year we celebrated 1,000 men of color. That's 10 years.
Yeah, that's amazing.
1,100 will make it this year. 900 women. That's
That's
1,900
amazing.
people. We can't. You
No,
can't ever run out of people.
no.
There's someone in college or high school right now in 5 years.
Yeah.
They will be the next persons in government or in education or in politics or public service that will be leading the charge or taking the torch. You
That's
can't ever.
fabulous.
You should not. We
You
should
shouldn't
not
run
ever
out.
run out
That's right.
because it's not about CEOs, not about presidents or
That's right.
executive directors.
That's right.
It's about the young lady who has a corner store or bodega who's
Yeah.
been servicing the community for 4 years
Hmm.
and generations of people who's an immigrant.
That's right.
It's the
That's right.
principal who says there's a janitor here who he's the only one that can reach these kids.
Yeah.
So that janitor should
He
be.
deserves, right.
So it's not
Yeah.
just, yeah, you're going to have those people in positions of power.
Of course.
But what about the people who make a difference in our
That's right.
community
That's
who
right.
never get the light shown
That's right.
on them?
Yeah.
Who, if it not for them, someone wouldn't have graduated. Someone's life may have been in jeopardy because
Yes.
they didn't have that person to talk to, confide in, or
Yeah.
show them the way.
No, you're right.
Can't run out of people.
And I love the approach that you've taken, that you've not made it just about title and position
It
and
can't
zip
be.
code and who knows who. You've talked about people that are really making a difference. And that's just what made it such a great honor to be those 900 women. So keep
There's no
on,
there's no
keep
favoritism.
going.
There's
No.
no favor, because a lot of people don't understand the process, and that's my secret sauce.
No,
All you gotta do is make a nomination.
I think that that is something, they've asked me to ask you if you could just read a short inspirational passage from your book. Would you indulge
Yeah, let me see. Let me see. Let me
us?
see. There, there's so much. If you haven't gotten this book, I think you should get it.
You should.
It's available via my website or Amazon. Um,
And this one too.
yeah, there's a lot here. Let me see. I will.
Doesn't have to be your favorite. I'm sure all of them will be favorites, but just whatever strikes your fancy.
All right. So in this piece that says realize, we're talking about value. So
Hmm.
here's one. Realize those who add value. There are people we can live with and those we can live without. The key is to realize the value in those we cannot live without and admit that those we can live without don't add value to our journey in life or our success.
You just said a mouthful
Yeah.
there.
That
That's wonderful.
this was a piece about spring cleaning on social media that
Mm,
we gather and add all these friends, but at the end of the day, how many of them add value to what is it you're doing? Or you
that's right.
just trying to collect friends or likes, and
Yes.
that's great if you're trying to create a business, but
Yeah.
are these people going to support you and buy your book? Or
That's right.
if you're vending and you have a pocketbooks that you're making, or
Yeah.
candles, or
Yeah.
shea
Yeah.
butter, or are they going to be there to support
Are
you?
they going to be there? That's
Yeah.
no, you're absolutely right. So, is there anything I haven't asked you about that as we begin to close this out that you'd like
Um,
to talk about, something you'd like to share?
yeah, I there's a lot, but if I could touch on one thing,
We'll do part two, I promise
yeah,
you.
I'm looking forward to that because you are very good at this, and I look
Thank
forward to seeing you do many more. Who knows where it might take you? You
you.
may
You're
have another
kind.
career. You never know. There
Thank you.
might This may be a bridge for you. So
Thank you.
I would like to share that. I'm proud of 100 Men of Color, 100 Women of Color. I hope that people continue to come out and support that. But my charge now is arts and culture.
Yeah.
Um, that I want people to understand all of what we have here in Greater Hartford and the state of Connecticut and New England.
Mhm.
You don't have to go to New York for a lot of stuff.
That's right.
We have artists here from a creative standpoint in terms of music, photography, painting, design, even cooking. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't understand cooking is an
It's
art,
an art. It absolutely is.
and we have those people here.
Yeah.
Find a way to support those individuals here that they can make a proper living to be able to continue to not only live their dream but be a blessing to our communities, right? Because
Oh,
we
that's
have the Emerald Lagasse's here,
right. Hmm.
right?
Hmm. You're
We
right.
have the Jay-Z's and Beyonce's here.
You're right.
We have the Van Goghs here. But if we don't provide them an opportunity to make money in their career from their art and what they're doing, we're doing ourselves a disservice.
You're right.
Go to the Wadsworth Atheneum.
Yes.
Go to the Bushnell. Get culture. Add culture.
Yes.
Bring your kids.
Yes.
You know, have the I Love Music Festival where it's from newborns to 80-year-olds.
Hmm.
Last year came one space where you're hearing good music, having good food, and just being able to fellowship with people.
Yeah, that's
Let's
right.
put art and culture back into Greater Hartford the way it should be done, and we'll see. This is a place to be. We always talk about it. This is the heartbeat. This is, yeah, you could go other places, you'll have fun, but we have everything we need right
Yeah.
here.
Right here in Hartford.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not just a tagline. Hartford has it. Hartford does have
Oh, and we've been had it.
it.
We've been had it, and
Yeah.
we've lost our way. But I think we've on a resurgence where um, so many people are
Mhm.
finding that, whether they're retiring and they find that new passion, or firing old passion back up,
Right. Right.
inspiring young people. We have the opportunity right now as we push forward and push culture forward to be a community of folks that people want to come to New England to see our museums, to
Yes.
see our festivals.
Yes.
Um, the jazz festival is amazing, but we
Mhm.
have other things that are going on. We need to
There's
continue
a
to
lot
support.
here.
It's
There's
a lot.
absolutely a
It's a
lot here.
lot.
And in many ways, one of the best kept secrets.
Oh yeah. The secret's out though now.
It's out
The
now.
secret is
Well,
out.
you're telling that story and you're
Yeah.
telling it well, and no better person to do it. So, June Archer, thank you for
Thank
taking
you.
time from your busy schedule to come and join me today. And again, I'm already putting it in the universe. We need to come back and talk
Absolutely.
more. Yes, you can. Yes, we can. Thank you so much. And
Yes.
thank you to everyone for joining us today on YW Live Lunch and Learn. We'll see you next time. Take good care.